In the desert, belief is not decoration. It is protection. It is survival. And in the silence, something ancient listens. They call them Djinn, spirits of smokeless fire, older than memory, feared, revered, and never quite forgotten. But myths do not appear from nowhere. They rise from the ground beneath our feet. To understand the Djinn, we must travel further back, to the people, places, and silence that first gave them shape. This is the story of the Nabataeans. They had no empire, no great armies, no epic tales of conquest, and yet they thrived. The Nabataeans emerged in the 4th century BCE, nomads turned traders, moving incense, spices, silk, and knowledge across the Arabian Peninsula. In an age of warriors, they were merchants, diplomats, survivors. No one knew quite where they lived or how they moved so freely through the desert. They were invisible until they chose not to be. Their power was in the space between empires, their wealth in what others overlooked: silence, sand, and stillness. They understood the desert as others could not. To outsiders, it was endless and empty. But the Nabataeans read the wind like scripture, knew which rocks whispered water and which stars marked the safest path. Where others got lost, they made maps. The desert gives nothing freely. To survive, one must understand the silence. To thrive, one must make it speak. And the Nabataeans did. They coaxed wealth from dust and shaped cities from absence. When they finally revealed themselves, it was with a city like no other, Petra. Not built, but carved. The Nabataeans didn't impose their will on nature. They listened, and then they shaped it. In a canyon of rose-colored cliffs, they sculpted a metropolis. They mastered water in a place that had none, with hidden channels, cisterns, and aqueducts. They made fountains bloom in the desert. They etched temples into canyon walls, raised tombs for gods with no names. Even the facades told stories, blending Assyrian, Hellenistic, and native styles. They borrowed, reimagined, and engraved identity in every curve. And they did it all without monuments to war. Petra was not conquest. It was permanence. The Nabataeans did not depict their gods. They revered battles, abstract stone blocks, uncarved, unmoving, said to house the divine. No eyes, no mouths, only presence. They built temples without idols, caves without inscriptions. To worship was not to speak, but to feel. A priest might sit for hours in silence beside a stone, not waiting for a voice, but for a presence. In stillness, they believed, divinity emerged. And in the gaps between wind and stone, the Djinn took shape. Not as monsters, but as watchers. Not separate from the world, but of it. They whispered through crevices, danced in firelight, waited in still water. These were no bedtime stories. They were warnings. Respect the unseen, or suffer its attention. For over 2 centuries, the Nabataeans walked beside giants. Egypt, Rome, Persia, without being swallowed. They built alliances, traded with rivals, and left no records of war. Even their writing, elegant early Arabic script, was sparse. No royal boasts, no military victories. Their power lay not in domination, but discretion. In a world of monuments and noise, they chose subtlety. Their legacy was not shouted. It was whispered in stone, waiting for someone to listen. And perhaps that's why the myths remain, because silence echoes longer than noise. In 106 CE, the Romans arrived, but there was no final stand, no scorched earth, no last king. The Nabataean kingdom became a Roman province. Their gods were renamed, their trade routes rerouted, their language faded. Rome did what empires do: renamed, restructured, absorbed. And yet, they too left Petra untouched. Perhaps even they felt the weight of what had been carved. But Petra remained, even as the temples fell silent, even as ritual gave way to ruin. The cliffs stood and waited. Today, Petra is a wonder of the world. But the people who built it are shadows. Their names unknown, their words rare, their gods quiet. And yet they are remembered. In Bedouin stories that speak of cursed gold, in bullet scars on the treasury left by those who feared Djinn guarded it, in the stillness of the caves where silence feels too full. The Nabataeans did not seek glory, they built for those who listen. And in the stillness of the red cliffs, if you stay long enough, the air feels heavier, as if someone else is still watching. And in that listening, they endure. They remind us that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. From stone, from silence, from stories we were never meant to fully understand. But the stones remember. They wait for questions unasked. They echo names lost to sand in a language only the patient can hear. And if you pause long enough, beneath the sun, between the shadows, you may hear it too. This was Chronica Arcana, The Nabataeans. A new story begins soon.